So I'll just go ahead and start, okay? So hi guys, I'm Swaraj, and in this course we'll learn about Python for data science and machine learning. We'll start from the very basics of Python and head over to all the intermediate concepts of Python, and then learn to use Python for implementing it on machine learning and data science projects. So over this course, we'll learn a lot of things, and I request you guys to subscribe to my channel for more content. And in this video we'll learn about what Python is, and then we'll learn about the important libraries of Python, and we'll also understand why Python is the most preferable language for the machine learning community. And then we'll head over to setting up our Python libraries and environment for Python coding, and then we'll get some hands-on experience with Python programming, and then move on to advanced concepts in Python. And then we'll also dive deep into the concepts of Python packages like Numpy, Matplotlib, Seaborn, scikit-learn, etc. for machine learning and data science. And then we'll also understand the math and statistics behind all the machine learning algorithms. And then we'll head over to some EDA, which is also known as exploratory data analysis, on data sets that will download from Kaggle, and I guess I'll provide it to you. And yeah, that's it. So what is Python? Python is an interpreted, object-oriented, high-level programming language. I'll tell you what interpreted means in a while. And Python is one of the most important languages right now for machine learning, because it's very easy to use, and you don't have to dive deep into the concepts of data structures explicitly to understand Python. And the most important thing about Python is it has Python supports models and packages. So Python language has a package for everything, and that's why it's the most seeked after language by the machine learning community, because it has a package for everything. And the Python interpreter, which is a really fast interpreter, you know interprets the code very quickly. So Python is the most important language for machine learning and data science. But you can also use another language called R. And machine learning is not only bound to Python or any specific language. It can Machine learning can be done in C++. It can be done in Java also. But Python is the most sought after language because of the vast variety of packages that it contains. All right. So any programming language can be broadly classified into these two classes called compiled language and interpreted language. So the main difference between the compiled language and the interpreted language is the presence of a compiler and the interpreter. So what happens in a compiled language is when a user types a source code and executes it, the compiler compiles the source code into a machine code, so that the computer can understand this machine code, and then generates the output. But interpreted language takes the source code and by the interpreter, and when we execute it, the interpreter converts that code and directly generates the output. So according to you guys, by seeing these two diagrams, what do you think is a faster language? Can you please type the answer in the live chat? I'm seeing your messages here on my phone. Yeah, someone type compile language. Ronak says it's the interpreted language. All right. All right. So according to the flowchart, it may seem that interpreted languages are faster than compiled languages, but that's not true. Compiled languages are generally faster than interpreted languages, because the compiler converts the entire source code to machine code once at a time. I mean, it converts it at once. But the interpreter, what it does is it takes the source code and converts it into the output line by line. So it may seem that compiled languages are faster, but it may seem that interpreted languages are faster, but then in reality, compiled languages are much faster, much faster than interpreted languages. And it may be like it is about 4 to 5 times faster than interpreted languages here. And there is a great debate about what is Python an interpreted language or a compiled language, but the reality is that Python is an Python is actually considered to be a cluster of both the languages, but because now that it shows here that it's an interpreted language, because when we execute our code, the it doesn't convert the code into a machine code and saves it as that extension, but the Python code gets converted into compiled code, but it doesn't get showed, and the compiler Python interpreter actually deletes the code entirely, deletes the code, the machine code, and then interprets the output. So therefore Python is much faster than any other programming languages, and for machine learning. Yeah. Why is Python favorable? As I told you, machine learning is not bound to Python or any other specific language, but it can be done in any number of languages like C++ and Java. Uh, an important thing to note that the TensorFlow library, which is a very important library for deep learning, is was actually written on C++. We write code here on Python, but this library was built using C++. So so machine learning is not bound to any specific language at all. But Python is one of the fastest languages because it has a library package for everything. So if you want to work with images, you have Numpy, to classify those images, convert those images into arrays, because our computer understands images in form of arrays, and then we do feature scaling on it, and take some specific features on which we want to classify our images into. And OpenCV is loosely translates to Open Computer Vision, which works with all vision related, or all images and videos related subjects. And to work with text, we have NLTK, which we'll be doing in the further videos, where we'll be working with sentiment analysis and everything. And for deep learning, we have TensorFlow and PyTorch. All right. So as you can see, this is the Google Trends for uh, machine learning with different languages. And as you can see, Python is by far the most used language uh, for machine learning. Yeah, and the best thing about these packages are that they have a zero learning curve, and what that means is essentially if you have the basic knowledge of Python, you can just implement these languages at Go. So you don't have to worry about learning these learning the basic fundamentals of these packages, like why they work or stuff like that. You can just implement them as you go ahead. All right. So Python is being used in a lot of avenues nowadays. Python is not generally focused to work on machine learning and artificial intelligence. We'll be focusing on machine learning, but Python can also be used for web development, for game development. As I told you earlier, that Python has a library and package for everything. So we'll also be using the Flask framework here to deploy our machine learning models into the cloud, because it doesn't really make sense developing a machine learning model and not showing it to people. So, and if you want to share it to an audience, you have to deploy it into the web, and we'll do it by using the Flask framework. And we'll learn about libraries and packages called Pandas, Numpy, and Scikit-learn, which is one of the fundamentals of any data science and machine learning course. We have to go ahead and learn these libraries, and Web scraping, yeah, we will also learn about web scraping by using libraries such as Beautiful Soup, and Python is also applicable in business applications like Triton and platforms using Triton and everything. So let's get ahead and start with setting up our environment for Python. So I want you guys to uh, go ahead to this link and download the executable installer. I'll share this link. Just one second. Share this link. Right. So once you go ahead and click this link, it'll take you to this website over here, which is the download for Python 3.7, 3.7.7. I'm requesting you guys to download Python 3.7 and not 3.8, because not the latest version, because TensorFlow, uh, some libraries of deep learning require Python 3.7 and not 3.8, which is some libraries of deep learning have not been integrated to Python 3.8 yet. So I'm requesting you guys to download the Python 3.7.7 version here. And when you go down here, you see this Windows x86 64-bit executable installer. You want to download that and then install it. I'm waiting till you guys install it. And when installing, make sure to select the add Python to 3.7, add Python 3.7 to path, and then click on install now. And or in the last step, you guys want to disable path limit len to ensure that Python is added to your path variable. All right. Once you guys are done doing that, can you please type done? Do you guys have the link? Have you guys received the link? All right. So after you have installed Python, what you want to do is next open up command prompt and check if you have installed Python correctly. So I'm just going to open up command prompt, and when you're here, just type Python and it should open a Python prompt. If everything was installed properly, it should open a Python prompt. Is it working properly? And when you're inside the Python prompt, you want to exit by typing this command out here, exit, and then two parentheses. So after you have successfully downloaded and installed Python, what you want to do is head over to command prompt, check your Python if it was correctly installed, and then uh, you want to install all the important libraries like Numpy, Matplotlib, Pandas, scikit-learn, Jupyter Notebook, and then OpenCV. So I'll give you this command out here, and you guys just copy and paste this command in your command prompt. After you paste it in your command prompt, it's going to download a bunch of libraries, which I've already done. So when I go ahead and do that, it may show a requirement already satisfied. Right, sorry. If it shows that pip3 is not recognized, just erase this 3 and then install. Where did it show that? Pip is pip install. Just hold on. You guys download this, it will work on your. I'm not sure why it's not working on mine right now. Just check. If everything was successfully installed, can you please type done in the live chat? Alright, so we'll just go ahead and assume everything was installed properly, and then after installing all the libraries like pandas, now like numpy, pandas, and matplotlib, etc. Anyways, it's this installation is not required for this video, so this video will just learn about the Python basics and some intermediate concepts, so it's not required. We'll just work with Python. So if Python was successfully installed by, and if you guys have checked that Python was successfully installed after typing Python and it opens a Python prompt, we'll go ahead with the next thing. So we'll start with our introduction to Python programming, and this is a link to a starting notebook that I've created for you guys. Just share this link also. So what you want to do is head over to this link, and then when you press this link, it will come up to a Google Drive folder, and you want to download the starter.rar file and then extract it into any desired folder you want. I recommend you guys to make a Python. I recommend you guys to make a Python folder for Python and then extract the rar file, .rar file to that location. After you have downloaded the rar file and then extracted it successfully, it's gonna extract a Python extension file called starter.py should be there, and then after that you want to open up Python in your text editor. So you also want to download a text editor, preferably Sublime Text, because to build any project it's very easy to Sublime Text. To build any project of Python, it's very easy because you just have to press Control B and it builds our Python project instead of going to the terminal and then executing it. So you want to download the Sublime Text 3. Sharing this link also in the live dashboard. Alright. So after you guys have extracted the rar file and then downloaded Sublime Text also, what you want to do is open up Sublime Text. Open up Sublime Text and then open a file called starter.py. This file should be there. You guys should have this file. If you have this file, please type in a yes in your live chat. So I'm just waiting for you guys to respond. Nobody is responding right now. It says three watching. All the three watching people, have you downloaded it successfully? Please let me know. Anyways, we'll go ahead. So, alright. In the starter.py file, you'll see all this code that I have already written for you. And then we're just going to go ahead and execute it one by one. Alright, somebody has typed in yes. So I want you guys to first see this. See the second line of the starter.py file. It shows that a equals to 2. So when we initialize any variable in our in Python, we don't have to explicitly define a data type like we used to do it in Java or C or C++. We used to always define the data type first along with the variable, like int a equals to 10. We used to do that, right? But in Python, our Python interpreter is smart enough to understand that a is an integer data type, and so we don't have to explicitly define our data type before a. All right. So what I want you guys to do is now comment out everything till this part. You want to select all of this code and then press Control and slash. It comments out everything. All right. You also want to comment out this thing. All right. So now we only have this code available in our working in our starter.py file, and then we are gonna go ahead and run this project. So when you want to run your project, you just want to go ahead in the project tab, and you just want to go ahead over the tools tab, and then press build. There's a shortcut to it. You can press Ctrl and B. So it says finished. So this code was successfully executed, and when we print a, it says 2. So as you can see, we didn't have the need to explicitly define any data type earlier. So Python interpreter, that's because Python interpreter is smart enough to understand that a, which was a variable defined, is an integer data type. All right. So now what you want to do is go ahead and uncomment it. You're going to select this piece of code that you want to uncomment, and again press Control and slash. So what do you think would happen if I have already initialized a variable called a, and then I reassign the value of a string value to that a variable? What do you think will happen? Will it throw an error or what? Please type your answers in the live chat. Yeah, it will show no error, right? Because it doesn't show any error. But then if we do it in other languages, it throws an error of that we have reinitialized this redefinition or redeclaration error that will get thrown if we use this code in Java. All right. So when you want to uncomment this and then press Control B again to build it. So now we see that our the value of a has been reassigned to max, which is a string. All right, now we'll understand the basic. So as you know, Python or in any other programming languages, strings are represented. Strings are put in or represented in quotes, double quotes or single quotes. You can use double quotes or single quotes. Doesn't really make a difference. So now we'll go ahead and understand basic arithmetic operations in Python. So you guys want to select everything from line 12 till line 7 and then uncomment it by pressing Control and slash. All right. So this was essentially a comment. So this will stay a comment. So now what I have done is now you want to comment this thing again or just leave it. It doesn't really make a difference. Now what happens is when I have initialized a as 7 again, so it doesn't throw an error because will again this max will again get sorry, the value of a will again get reassigned to 7, and then I have initialized another variable called b which has a value of 3, and then when we and then our basic arithmetic operation of addition is carried out here, and then the value of this addition is stored in a variable called c, and then when we print c it shows 10, which is right. So any other basic arithmetic operation like subtraction, multiplication or division works the same way. Alright, if you guys have done till here, we'll go ahead with understanding the scope of an if-else statement or scope of a conditional. So you want to uncomment everything again from line 23 to line 14, and then alright, so I have defined another variable called a. So I have defined another variable called a variable called a, which gets reassigned the value of 1 again, and then b also gets reassigned the value of 5, and then we add c equals to a plus b. Alright, and if the if and else conditional works something like this, that if c is greater than 5, and remember we used this bracket when we were to define a scope in C in Java, or if it was multiple lines we used to define it by this thing, but in Python you want to use semicolon, sorry, you want to use colon, and it doesn't really make a difference if you put the brackets or not. Alright, so our scope is basically this, and then when we press, so if the value of c is greater than 5, we'll print this, and then else we'll print this. Let's go ahead and build this. So as you know that the value of c will be 6 and it's greater than 5, so our this code block is getting executed. In Python, we don't have to use any terminating semicolons or whatsoever. We just go ahead and we don't need to actually put anything when we want to finish our code or stop our code at that point of time. That's why scope comes into use. Okay. So next we'll study about lists. Line 27 and 26, please uncomment that, and then I'll define a list called list1, and then it will have a value. List is defined by square brackets. All right, this is defined by using square brackets, and then the most important thing to note is that in no other programming languages list can have multi data type multi-data type store multi-data type values. Whereas in Python, it's possible to do that because and that's one of the reasons why Python comes in handy. Uh, as you can see, list one is a list which contains a string. It contains float. It can contain double values also. So when we go ahead and build this, it's just creating a list, and it shows that it has created a list. And then when we want to access any particular item of a list, what we want to do is we reference that particular item uh, inside a square bracket. So our list is called list one, and then we want to print the first element of our list. So in Python, everything starts with a zero based indexing. So the first element is always a zero. In Java also it's the same thing, and in C also most probably it's the same thing. Uh, the first element of our list has an index of 0. So when I go ahead and print this, prints out max. Right. So the first element of the list 1 was max, so it gets ahead and printed. So it gets printed here. Suppose we want to print, suppose we want to print text as well in along with the list item. We just go ahead and type print, and then using double quotes, we type the text that we want to show. Let's say of uh, the age of Max is what is. We're going to go ahead and type a comma and then reference our variable called list one. Reference the thing that we want to get printed. So the age of Max is 22. As you can see, I printed the age of Max, which I have fetched from the list that I had created earlier. Alright, so if we want to print, suppose we want to print the first three, or if it was a bigger list, suppose we wanted to print the first n elements. So what we want to do is we want to execute this. The first three items in my list are we use this thing to reference. We use a colon to reference from where to where we want our things to get printed from. Suppose 0, it starts from the very first element to the third element, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. I guess all the okay. So all the elements won't get printed because a list generally works with an indexing of 0 to n minus 1. 0 to n minus 1 indexing, and then it will get printed to 0 to 2, the second element. So 0, 1, 2, all the first three elements of the list will get printed. So the first three elements in the list are max, 22, and 6.0. So an important thing to note here is that this thing essentially is again getting printed in form of a list. So this comes in very handy when you want to access that particular list again. And we'll be doing this a lot many times when we want to feature scale our data set in machine learning or data science. Suppose we want to access the last element of our list. What do? We could always do this thing, which is not wrong. Print list one, and then we could always count the last element in which index the last element is present. In this 0, 1, 2, 3, the third index is the last element. So when we go ahead and build this, obviously 70 is going to get printed, but what we want to do here is, suppose it's a very big list. It's a very big list, and we can't count till the last element. Can't count the position of the last element. So what we would do is we use this command. And by using the -1, it takes the last element of that list. and successively if we press -2, it'll go over to this element. When we press this, again 70 is getting printed. So no error is getting fetched. Our printing was right. Alright, let's see if you guys have followed up till here. Alright, when we want to add element to a list, what we do is we use the append function or append method, and then this element gets added to the last gets added as the last element. When we go ahead and print this, then we want to append this California in the list 1 as our last element. So using this, so our list now becomes this thing where California gets added. Suppose we want to delete a particular item from a list. What do we do? Alright, so the pop function out here lets us delete an element index wise. So by index. So when we want to delete an element from a list by index, we use the pop function, and this is another list that I have created. And when we execute this line of code that says list2.pop 0, I'm referencing the 0th index, which is Allison. And then when I print this, when I go ahead and build this, as you can see, Allison is getting removed from that list. Alright, if you guys have followed up, please press yes in the live chat. I'm gonna go ahead and check it. Now suppose I want to delete a particular item, and I don't remember the index of it, but I remember that that item was present in that list. So suppose I want to remove 20 from this list of Allison. What I do is we use the dot remove function, and we want to reference the list that we want to delete it from. So list2 dot remove. All right. So and now what we do is we reference the thing that we want to remove. So 20. We want to remove 20 from our list, and then go ahead and print the list 2. So as you can see, now the list becomes smaller. So this generally comes into use when we don't remember the proper index of that item in the list, but we know that that item is present somewhere in the list. All right, now if we want to add an element to a specific position. All right, we did this adding elements to a list, but what if we want to add element to a specific position? So what we would do is we use this thing, list2 dot insert 0 Allison. So this 0 is the index that we want to insert it into, and the next thing is what we want to insert in. So we want to insert Allison in the first position, and then we use the dot insert function for that, and then we build this. Let's see. So Allison now gets added, as you can see, and then let's add the thing that we had removed also. Let's add. Let's see. Will this throw an error? No, it doesn't. Now the important thing to note here is that when I typed in, when I typed in Allison, I used the single quotes. So everything in a list is essentially converted into a string. Yeah. So I have given everything as a string, so it was technically as a string. But then if we want to, give a number to it, we do this by writing this 20 without using our single quotes, an integer. Sorry. Uh, all right. Now what I want to show you is, let's say I want to, print out everything in this list, but in a series, uh, in a particular order. When we want to print out all the elements one by one, instead of it getting printed in a list format. So what we do is we use the for each loop, and we use this loop by just typing, say, for all the items in the list. So for all items in list one, let's say we use the earlier list, which has this max 22 California and stuff, and I want to print out everything in that list. So I just print. So it iterates over every item of that list one by one. So for items in list one, it gets, so this code block now first iterates over this list and goes over to the first element of that list, and then prints out that first element, and then again it goes to the, after printing out this, it again goes, the code again goes back to this, and the second element is accessed, and then it gets printed again. So when I do this, all our elements get printed one by one, as you can see here. All right. Now let's read this. You just uncomment it and run it and see what happens. Then when we want to create a tuple is basically another data structure present in Python. And the most important thing to note about tuples are that tuples are immutable, which essentially means that once the values are assigned to a tuple, it can't be changed. Tuples come in handy in a lot of cases when we don't want reassignment of values. Like for example, a database that is using that is using particular marks of a person, particular marks of a student, and then those marks are finalized, and then they don't want to change it again. So they can use a tuple instead of a list. All right, and we can reference the same thing. We can reference the same thing. We can access the elements by the same way that we did in the list by referencing or the index. I'm just going to go ahead and create a tuple called tuple1, and tuple, unlike lists, are created using a parenthesis instead of square brackets. And if I want to create this tuple, let's say, and then I go ahead and print the tuple, so the tuple will be printed here. All right. So now if I want to, let's say, if I want to uh, change the value of tuple, let's say tuple 1, tuple 1, and the, let's say, the first element I want to change it to, let's say, 2. So it will throw an error right now. Says that type error is that tuple object does not support item assignment. So once created, the tuple elements can't be reassigned. All right. And when we want to access a particular item of a tuple or a list, we just reference it by the index. So the first element of our tuple is getting printed, which is 1. Alright, so we have studied about lists, we have studied about tuples, and now we are going to go ahead and study about dictionaries, because dictionaries is one of the most important data structure in Python or any other programming language. Uh, Dictionaries, if we have studied data structures, dictionaries can be, is basically like hash maps, where we have key value, keys, and the values to that specific key. So we create a dictionary by using this bracket instead of the square bracket or the normal parentheses that we use. We use this bracket, and then we create the key and the value, and then the key that we want, the value that we want to reference it to that particular key, we do it by using the colon here, and then after that, this is the second element that is going to get created in the dictionary. All right. Now if I want to print my dictionary, let's say dictionary one. Now I want to get print my dictionary one. Let's see it gets printed. All right, so this is our dictionary where we have a name called Max, age 22, height 6, and weight 70. We can do this in list, but it will be sorry, I'm sorry, we can't do that in list, because we can't use any operators like equal, or we can do that, but that won't necessarily essentially mean that the value of max is getting stored in this key called name. But in dictionary we use key value pairs, so I can call out or reference the name called max by just referencing our name key. And when we want to access any particular element in our dictionary, we use the key instead of indexing. So suppose I want to print the height of the person. So height of the person is dict one, dict one, and height. So instead of the position like this, we can do that also. Let's see if that gets throws an error. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Okay. So it throws an error. But if we do it by the key value pairs, so height of the person is 6 feet. So as you can see that instead of the indexing based, we reference our uh, element of a dictionary by using the key value pairs. So similar as this, when we want to print out multiple things, we do it by using this. And then right. So the age of Max is 22, where we reference the name by using the dict1, and then square bracket name, and then the age. Alright, so when we want to update values in a dictionary, we can't do that in a dictionary because it's not a tuple, and dictionaries are mutable. So what we want to do is we reference that element by using the key again, and then change it. It's very easy in dictionaries. Similar to that in uh, list, but instead of using the indexing based referencing, we use the key based referencing here. All right, now if I print our dictionary, which was Max and which had the name called Max, now gets changed to name called Bob. All right, are you guys following? Now we'll understand how functions are created in Python. So functions are one of the most essential part in any programming languages. Suppose we have to do a mathematical function or anything that doesn't, have a mathematical operator. We create a function for that. So the function creation in Python is very easy. suppose I want to create a function called addition. For addition, what we do is, right, I'll just show you how to do it. So we define a function by using the def keyword, and now we write the name of the function. Suppose I want to type add, and then we select the parameters that gets passed in, number of parameters that gets passed into the function add function. So for any, suppose I'm just making a normal function to print out print out the addition of two numbers. So I'll just pass two parameters called num1 and num2 to that function, and then for the scope, I told you we use this the colon out here, and then what we do is we just return this. We just return num1 plus num2. Right. Now let's call this function. Say I want to print the summation of 3 and 5. See what gets printed. Sorry. So as you can see, now 8 gets printed. We created a function and we didn't use explicitly, the mathematical operation called 3 plus 5, and we did that by just creating a function. All right. So division works in the same way. Suppose I define another function to divide two numbers. Now what I've shown you here is that, let's say I don't remember. In division, it's required because we don't know which the numerator was or which the numerator wasn't. So instead we see this function called num1 and num2. All right, and if we want to pass a function, we can always do this by, suppose num1 is 3 9 and then num2 is 3, we can do this. All right, so the value will be 3.0. But then if we don't remember where the num1 was, or where the num2 was, if it's a long function, we can just reference it also by passing the name of the parameters, like num1 equal num2 equals to suppose 9. We can, what I'm essentially showing you is that num2 equals to 3. So num2, the value of 3 can be present before the value of 9. It doesn't really make a difference if you pass the name of the parameters also along with it. So the value will still be 3.0. So this was the basic to Python programming, and then if you guys have followed up till here, you guys have known all the basics for Python programming required for data science and machine learning. Now we'll go ahead and understand some advanced concepts in Python. So the link that I shared with you guys, you want to open up that link again. You want to open up that link again and then head over to intermediate. You want to head over to this drive folder, and then when you go in questions, you want to download this questions intermediate dot slash python dot rar file, and then you want to extract it to the folder that we were doing stuff earlier with, and then you want to open that file in the Sublime Text. I have given the solution in this Python intermediate python.rar, but I'm anyways going to show you guys how to work with what. Alright. So let me just open up questions intermediate.rar. Alright. Just open this. I'm waiting for you guys to open this. Did I check my chats? Okay, so I have given you two lists out here, and then suppose we want to join these two lists, or concatenate these two lists and make it into one single list. So what we do is just type in print a plus b. So this will instead of add, this doesn't add the elements these two lists element wise, but the plus operator here, essentially concatenates these two lists. So when we press in Control B, so as you can see, our list, new list, let's store this into a new list, and then we want to print out C. So a new list is getting created, which is the concatenation of these two lists, and it has all the elements from 1 to 8. Alright, so when we want to add every element of the first list to every element of the second one, what I'm generally telling you is that I want to add 1 with each and every element, and then go ahead and take this 2 and then add each and every element, and then store it into a list. So what we do is uh, for each in A. So we reference the for each loop, and then what we do is I want to take this for let's say, what do I take for, let's say, anything called for item in B. What I want to do is I want to add these two. I'll just show you the output of this. So as you can see, 1 plus 5 is 6, then 1 plus 6 is 7, then 1 plus 7 is 8, and then each and every element gets added to each and every each and every element of the second list. We do that by using the for each loop. Alright, suppose now we want to add two lists element wise. We want to make a list called C, and then we want to add these two, and generally the output of the list C should be 6, 8, 10, and 12. How do we do that? That thing, that this operation in Python is comparatively very difficult, and we do that by using the .zip method. Alright, so what we want to do is we create an empty list called C. Alright, create an empty list C, and then for each and every item, no, sorry, for let's say item 1 and item 2 in A comma B, zip. We use the zip method as I told you earlier. In zip A comma B, what we do is C dot append. We append the sum of these two these two items, and go ahead and print our function C. Alright, so as you can see, let's comment this out because it takes a very large space. So as you can see, we created an empty list C, and we use the for each loop again here but we took this thing called zip. Alright, and we took our list, and then we added each and every element of the first list which has a similar index to that of the second list. Now this function is this operation is technically somewhat difficult to do in Python. So that's why we use libraries like Numpy, which is generally a package for scientific and numerical computing, which makes it very 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 easy to add two elements and do add two lists element wise, and do many number of operations like this, which is very difficult and very time consuming in Python, Python without using any packages. All right, so now let's say I want to iterate over a dictionary. What do we do? How do you do that? I've created this dictionary. All right, I've created this dictionary, and I want to let's say iterate over it. So we use the for each loop to iterate over each and every element. So we do is for, let's say, for items in dict 1 print items. So as you can see, only the key pairs key gets printed. All right. So now what we do is when we reference our dictionary using the for each loop, only use one parameter. Uh, Only the key pairs gets printed. But this we can type any name. It doesn't really makes it doesn't is not a compulsion to type key or anything. It's just a variable name that it's getting created here. Let's say key, and then I'll use values. I'm gonna print key and values. It throws an error. I have to use this thing here. Throws an error again. Let's say okay. So now see, it doesn't throw an error now because we are doing something incorrect. What we were doing is, you know, not not accessing the items of that dictionary. So by the dot items method here, we can print out the different items values of the dictionary along with the key value along sorry the or the key value pairs. So this is a question for you guys. I have given you a string called the string, and I want you guys to print out the number of uppercase and lowercase letters, characters or letters, whatever, in this string. How do you do that? Just pause this video and then try to solve this. I'll solve this right now. I'm gonna give you some time to do it. Okay, so now I want to iterate over this string. Alright, so what I do is for a character in the string, what I do is check that if this character is, I iterate over each and every character. Now I check that if this character is in uppercase or a lowercase. So c dot is upper. Alright, we use the dot upper function here. Dot upper function here, and then if an this is an uppercase character, we create another two value variables here called count up equals to 0, count low equals to 0, and then if this is an uppercase character, we increase the value of this count up by 1, and then else we use the elif. This is the if else if in C. We use the elif instead of else if. So if this is lower, we if else we just print out that we just pass the function. Let's see, let's get rid of. Sorry, this is done, but now what we do is print case characters. See, case characters. So we have two uppercase characters out here called which is the M and the S character, and then we have 12 lowercase characters. Alright, so this was how we count the uppercase and lowercase characters. this is another question, alright, which I want you guys to do is I want you guys to write a function to, square elements from 1 to 20 and store them in a list. Go ahead, pause this video and then solve it. That's how I'll do it. I create a function called square and then pass an empty parameter out here because just pass an empty parameter out here because this does not read any parameter because we'll be creating a list inside of this function. Let's say list 1, alright. This will be an empty list. And then what we want to do is for each let's say range 1 to 21. So I have to square all the numbers from 1 to 20, and as I told you, Python works with an indexing of 0 to n minus 1, so all the numbers from 1 to 20 will get printed. Alright, so now what I want to do is list 1. This is an empty list and I want to store all the items from 1 to 20, square of all the items from 1 to 20 in that list. So I just append this and I access all the elements of this of all the elements from 1 to 20 by using the each, and then I multiply it by itself. We can do this for squaring or the double multiply and then square just goes to the power. And then what I want to do is I want to return my list 1. Now just go ahead and run my. So as you can see, I have created a list which squares all the elements from 1 to 20. Right. So this is one more question that I want you guys to do. This is a tuple which I have given you. Oh, sorry. This is a list that I have given you, and in this list, all the elements are present in the form of tuples. All right. So just create this list called list. Just reference it as my list. Right, and I want to sort all the items in this list based on the first element. So what I do is I just use the dot sort method out here. Sorry. What did I do? Mistake that I have done. I can't do it like this. I first have to sort this and then. So yeah, as you can see, dot sort method in itself is a function which sorts the items of the list based on the first element of the tuple. Alright, so now if I want to sort this given list, same given list, let's say list 3, I want to sort it based on the second element. So what do I do? What do you guys think? We can do this by two ways. Okay, so first is just by creating a function called let's say sort 2, and then pass a function called pass a parameter, any parameter, and then I want to return this function, this parameter. Yeah, so I want to return this parameter which with the second with the first index. So because I want to sort this list based on the second element of the tuple, I reference the one index of the tuple because I want to essentially sort this list based on the second elements. Alright. And then now what I do is I create this sort function, list3.sort, and we use a key parameter here, and this key will be our sort2 function. Let's see if it throws any error. So as you can see, this list gets uh, sorted based on the second element of the list. Suppose we don't want to, generally create another function, because creating a function means naming a function and then using that name again. So if we don't want to create another function, we can do this by using the lambda functions. Lambda functions are basically anonymous functions, which generally means that we don't have to name them, and we can just use them by referencing it inside a particular method. So this will just be, list3 dot sort, and when we use the key parameter here, we'll just be using the lambda function, which takes a value of x, and then we do it reference the we sort it on the based on the first element, the second element of that list. Because it's true. Sorry, I just missed. Give a wrong name. Sort key. Why is this not working? Let's go this out. Yeah, so it should be a small L, and then to reference this class, the second element. So as you can see, if we don't want to, define any particular specific function, we just do it by using the lambda function, and this lambda functions are going to be very 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 handy when we do feature scaling in our data science projects. Because essentially when we will be dealing with will be doing a project which has which for the classification of breast tumors, so what breast cancer, so what we'll do is all the malignant tumors will be uh, present in the form of M, or the benign will be present in the form of B, but then our computer doesn't understand this M or B. So by using the lambda function, we will essentially convert this M and B to where M will convert this M to 1 and then B benign to 0, so that our computer understands it, and then we will be successfully doing feature scaling on our project. All right, so this was our video, and then you can go ahead and download the solution, which is the intermediate python.py file. And what you do is go ahead and download that, and then if you have any queries, just type in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them, and just subscribe to my channel for more videos, because we have completed till the advanced concepts of Python. So in the next video we'll be learning about all the Python packages like Numpy, Matplotlib, and Pandas and whatsoever, and then head over to statistics and then do some EDA on real data sets. We'll be doing EDA on data sets on the next video itself, So please subscribe and stay tuned to this video. Alright, thank you for watching.